Angie.
Yes, I will be brief tonight. I just wanted to thank our communications team. It's been working on a nice one-pager, which we're about to send out to the community. So that'll be coming out this week, but we are working on our priorities for the Fair School Funding Plan, which is our state level funding. And with this will be a template that community members can use if they're interested in reaching out to legislators. So it'll be a template that can be used either for writing an email or as a transcript if you want to make a phone call with some of that information. But really focusing on making sure that we advocate for keeping our state share stable with our funding, with making sure that we are looking at the true funding cost for special education. That's a big one, and looking at what that really takes to run special education programs for our students. Fully funding the plan at the full phase and amount that was promised. Stopping unfunded mandates. There are lots of different initiatives and mandates that come out of our state that, you know, many of them we think are great for kids, but unfortunately they come with hundreds of thousands of dollars in costs that are often not provided along with those mandates. And finally, we want to make sure that we're advocating to make sure that they are updating the cost inputs to make sure that the cost to educate a child is reflecting the current rates. So those are all on this document. So if you live in the district, if you're a parent, watch for that. That'll be coming out soon. We, again, just would really appreciate any support. I've been talking to legislators. I know Nicole's had multiple meetings as well. Many of our board members have had the opportunity to talk with our legislators, but it does mean a lot to them when they hear it from community members. We know that as our state funding continues to decrease, it does place additional burden on our local community members with our property taxes. And so we really want to make sure that we're getting the funding that we need for our students so that we don't have to keep coming back and asking for additional money in local property tax. So appreciate any help. And Nicole and I are always happy to chat with people about this, answer any questions that you have. And that's all I have tonight.
I'm hoping, so we talk a lot about the inputs, right? And them lagging in terms of like 2022. So I'm just wondering if you can clarify that for people, because I think that point is a little bit confusing.
Yeah, I think it's intentionally confusing. So the current funding formula that we have, when they are looking at what is the cost to educate a child, they're using costs from 2022. While they've continued to account for inflation for our local wealth factor, so what is our ability to pay as a community, they've accounted for inflationary increases with updated property values, updated income values, but what they haven't done is account for inflationary increases on the costs, which, as that math works, just decreases our state funding overall. And so I am working on a presentation to share out with the community. I will have it when we come back in March for the updated forecast. I'll have that as built into that as well. So I think that I would encourage anybody that's interested in school funding and seeing our schools be appropriately and fairly funded, as they are required to do, as the state of Ohio is required to do under our state constitution. Our school funding has been unconstitutional since 1997. We would like to see the state do what it is supposed to do.
And we will be giving the presentation that Nicole talked about. We will be going around and sharing that and talking about this flyer as well with our PTAs and our staffs and some other community groups over the upcoming next couple of months as well.
And if anyone has a group they want us to come present to, please reach out and let us know. We'd be glad to do it.
I know you also talk a lot about how much we get per pupil in our, for our Westerville City School District kids, and how much private entities get. So could you just remind us?
Yeah, so on average, we're funded about $3,000 per student that we that live in our district and we educate. private schools receive private vouchers in the amount of $6,000, over $6,000 for a K-8 student, anyone in kindergarten through 8th grade, and up to $8,400 for a student in 9-12. So $3,000 for us, $6,000 or $8,400, depending on the grade level, in vouchers for private schools.
So just thinking about how much we are getting, right? And thinking about, the FY 2022 number.
It's based on FY '22 costs, yeah.
So we're still not getting enough of funding to
No,
actually
so
meet.
and they haven't fully funded it to date. Right now, they've only implemented 67% of the plan. As Angie talked about, special education costs. So what does it cost to educate a child? The state has done cost studies on the actual costs of educating students with special needs, and there's several different categories within there. They've had it since November of 2022. It was a study that they commissioned, that they used the American Institute for Research that performed the cost studies. It's on the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce's website if anybody's interested. So they have a study, but they haven't, that's just one of the many studies that they've done, but they haven't, that's the big one that they haven't inputted into the, so not only are they not accounting for inflation with the costs, but they also haven't updated it for what does it actually cost in the formula, so. But all the while, they continue to update our local wealth factors so that we look wealthier, which shifts that cost more to our local community.
I just want to follow up and correct me if I'm thinking incorrectly about this. So, say I have a child who attends Westerville schools and they're in 9th grade, hypothetically speaking. And what Westerville is getting is about $3,000 to educate that child.
On average.
On average, from the state.
Yes.
The rest of it is made up from local property taxes and a mix of a couple other things.
Mm-hmm.
Take that same child and say, I'm taking them out of Westerville. I want to use a voucher to send them to a private school.
Yeah.
They're a high schooler. That school is going to get over $8,000 for that child to attend.
Yes, $8,408. There are some like income requirements, but it's a very high threshold.
Okay, thank you.
But everyone gets a voucher.
Yeah.
And just for clarity, when that voucher of public money goes to the private entity, are there any particular requirements that that private entity has to show what the money is going towards, that they have to provide, report card statuses?
So the chartered non-public schools, so the chartered private schools that receive vouchers, there are some requirements for assessments that they create on their own.
So not state-based?
So it's not like they're not subject to the state school report card. They're not subject to state auditors' audits. I tell people we enjoy 6 months out of the year. We get to spend time with our state auditors here. They do none of that. They're not subject to public records laws. They do not have to accept students. They are allowed to have an application process, and they can say no if a student doesn't fit in their school.